When it comes to superhero mutations, there's a few I know that most people wish they could have. Heck, I've personally wished a few times that I could teleport. But what about the mutations that aren't so desirable? Ones that are more harmful than helpful or just plain old icky? Let me know what you think they should be, and let's get into today. For starters, Maggot was a disaster of late 90s extremitude. He hails from that miserable period where every new X-Men either A, had the same power as a more famous X-Men except more extreme, or B, had a confusing mutant power that seemed to operate purely according to the whims of plot necessity, or C, had an absolutely ridiculous mutant power that wouldn't be useful ever for anyone. But he falls under category C in my opinion. His stomach was 2 biomech slugs which could eat anything and give him super strength, but he was really conflicted about it and had unnecessary letters in his name. Who in their right mind would want slugs as a part of your body? We left that in the history. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he basically the love child of Matter Eater Lad and Spawn? For reference, he was this flamboyant South African mutant who spoke an exaggerated African slang and originally was advertised as one of the strangest X-Men. Yeah. His powers turned him blue and caused him constant pain, which, once again, not helping in the desirable powers category. I don't need pain. He also has one of the worst career arcs out of anybody. He was dumped by the X-Men into Generation X, and then immediately dropped by Generation X after one issue into a prison camp. There, well, he was killed by that reality's Iron Man. Bye-bye. With a moniker that's just skin, yeah, this next guy isn't starting off too strong. What's his power? Well, it's pretty simple, 6 feet of extra stretchy skin. Angelo Espinosa was a former gang member from the East LA area who faked his own death for numerous reasons. He wanted to hide his newly manifested mutation from his family, I wonder why, and also he wanted to leave that part of his life behind. He was one of 4 young mutants, including M, Husk, and Blink, who was adopted by the Phalanx, a techno-organic alien race, and why? Well, they wanted to uncover the secret behind mutations. So his power, I really don't want to talk about it, but it's 6 feet of extra flappy skin that he can control, which has got to be hell on wheels to lug around. Skin isn't a combat organ. It's so weak against damage that we as a humanity invented armor. It's so weak against nothing that we invented clothes. When your mutant power makes you more vulnerable to injury, you really shouldn't be calling attention to yourself, which is advice Skin didn't take. He was eventually crucified on the lawn of the X-Mansion, and the wrong name was written on his gravestone, and then he was dug up and cremated. That's writing somebody out of continuity with extreme prejudice. Even in his depiction when he's just hanging out, his backpack has unnecessarily scrolled dangly flaps. This guy couldn't win. Beak was intended to show how mutation could look hideous, which isn't a great idea for a good guy in a visual medium. Look, pardon me, I'm a little vain when it comes to my own appearance. So he had all the powers that you would leave off the list if you were designing a human-bird hybrid. Lighter bones made him fragile as all get out, a beak made him, well, hideous. Feathers meant his most powerful mutant attack was tickling, and his wings made him barely able to glide. And that's in a universe where other mutants can fly anytime the writers forget they can't. And they called him Beak, because out of all the words that flash to mind when you see him, well, it's not an awful one. Even the X-Men stuck him in a special class, and sadly in that context, special is a derogatory word. His brightest idea was, get this, attacking Magneto with a metal baseball bat. Yeah. Magneto pretty quickly chucked him up into the air, which granted is sort of a poor strategic decision when you're fighting a bird guy, and Beak sucked so hard he still nearly died. You have a bird guy, and he's almost defeated by being tossed in the air? Come on. And that's still not the most terrible thing he's ever done. No, that was getting his insectoid girlfriend pregnant, because when I saw what the two of them produced, I'm never getting that visual out of my head, and now neither are you. So there was a 1960s comic book character by the name of Captain Marvel. No, not that one. Nope, not the other one. This is one of the half dozen or so who use the same name. Look, I didn't say I was only going to talk about X-Men mutations today. This guy was just so weird that I had to mention him. It's a version you've never heard of. A short-lived character who, upon shouting his magic word, split, could make his body divide into pieces that operated independently. So you can never order a banana split in your life ever again? Or offer to split the bill at a restaurant? Yeah, no thanks. He was a jet-booted and laser-eyed alien android powered by an M emblem and medallion who had been sent by Earth by his creators to escape the atomic destruction of their war-ravaged planet. He was published by Myron Fass's short-lived MF Enterprises. And once again, it's unrelated to Fawcett Comics, DC, Marvel. He was only in a couple of comics in the late 60s before legal challenges shut the entire publisher down, and by a few I think he only lasted 4 comics. I wonder why. There have been multiple famines over the years, usually with a variation of the same wasting ability that replicates starvation and makes people weak. Look, maybe this might sound intriguing if you fancy yourself a supervillain, but it sounds miserable and useless to me. And it's strange enough that there are multiple mutants with this power, like where that 2 nickel meme comes into place. But the most interesting and nonsensical variation is the famine of the Final Horsemen, which was an elite team that would only be used if everything else had failed. Specifically, Jeb Lee was a Civil War veteran whose mutant gifts gave him the ability to give people bio-auditory cancer. I can't think of any world where this would be useful. Like, yes, I get it, bad guy, but still! So they were awakened by Clan Aqaba in the present to serve a new child, Apocalypse, and later Apocalypse's heir, an ascended Archangel. Well, after Archangel's defeat, Famine went to work for which, okay, but was killed by the Apocalypse twins. Honestly, after that I'm like, geez, should I do a top 10 X-Men with crappy names? Tar Baby had the amazing mutant power of secreting an adhesive all over his body, causing anything he touched to permanently stick to him. By all appearances a nice guy, he just had an unfortunate mutation and name. Now it's hard to tell Baby's ethnicity from looking at his pictures and depictions, but who on earth thought it was a good idea to name any character after a racial slur? I can see where they got the name, but why not flypaper or attachment disorder? Anything's a step up, really. Because like on top of having a crappy, heinous, awful name, being a walking giant glue trap sounds like a miserable existence. He was a Morlock living with the Dring Dwellers, it was a subgroup, who survived the mutant massacre. Briefly lived with X-Factor at their headquarters before returning to the tunnels. Now Baby was eventually captured and killed by the Weapon X program at their Neverland facility, and like, just, I never want to hear about Baby ever again. QWERTY had the remarkable power of seeing the future. Now when I say that, I'm sure you're all like, well, I'd love to see the future, what are you talking about? You're speaking crazy, Alexa. Okay, by seeing the future, I mean seeing all possible futures. Every possible future from every possible action every moment of the day. Which basically left her catatonic, because that's so overwhelming. Think about it. Every day you make a million little decisions without even thinking too hard about them. Like, I made the choice to dress like this today. I made the choice to turn on the light this morning. Imagine seeing the future for every choice that's made for every person ever. It would make you want to hide in a secluded cave far, far away from anything living. Like, I'm not talking deserted island, because I think this also translates to wildlife. Thankfully for QWERTY, and I only say this thankfully for her, she was depowered on M-Day, but sadly she passed away because of it. But she did write the Book of Prophecy found by Delphi, and that Mask's used to try and start a human mutant war, which is not so good. I do like that her name comes from the arrangement of the first 6 letters found in a computer keyboard though, like that's neat. I don't think it fits her very well, but what do I know? I'm not a comic book writer. Trevor Hawkins was one of the new mutants to manifest their powers after the war between the Avengers and the X-Men, and quickly enrolled in the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning due to being bullied in his public school. Why was he being bullied and harassed? Poor guy was covered in eyes, earning them the oh so creative moniker of Eye Boy. How many eyes? A grand total of 57, which yes, allows him to see in multiple directions, but still. And he's like, yeah, I can't really use them for an offensive purpose, but I can see things that no one else can see, including nearly limitless varieties of spectral visions. So sure, yeah, he's got improved marksmanship, great nonverbal communication skills, apparently he can see dust motes as little plain as day, also he can see really great, really far distances, but is that really worth being covered in so many little ickies that would make anybody with trypophobia run for their lives? Oh, I almost forgot. His many eyes can also see and track pheromone secretions made from specific human beings, which great in battle, super creepy out of battle. So Wraith, well, he could turn his skin invisible, and other people's skin invisible, which that's gonna give you like an ice cream headache. Brain freeze, which by the way, note how I said turn his skin invisible, not turn himself invisible, so you've just got like a see-through body, which, ugh. Yes, I get it, turning yourself invisible might be a little too cool for Hector Mendoza, pun intended. He was on his way to a doctor's appointment when a mob attacked him because of his appearance, but was saved by Phoenix, who recruited Hector into a new team of X-Men who was set on a mission to rescue Charles Xavier, who had been kidnapped by Magneto. On the way, Jean Grey was like, let's give you a little crash course in using your powers and how to be an X-Men. So during the fight with Magneto, Hector was able to transfer his invisibility field to Magneto, causing him sufficient disorientation, and everybody else was able to like rescue Xavier, which yay! Now despite his pivotal role in that conflict, Hector decided to leave the X-Men. He wanted to discover and learn his abilities on his own. And poor guy lost his mutant powers during M-Day. How about we end today with another mutation concept that just ticks me off, and that's the Blob. Yeah, early X-Men comics got strange, and this guy fit right in. Red Duke's powers gave him super strength and made him the proverbial unmovable object by controlling gravity around his body. He was also invulnerable and gained mass, becoming morbidly obese. Now unlike skin, his body possesses a high degree of resistance to injury. The fat tissues that make up the Blob's epidermis are able to absorb the impact of rifle explosives, cannonballs, bazookas, even torpedoes. bones. The fat tissue is resilient enough to revert to its normal shape within seconds after deformation caused by impact, making it virtually impervious to physical injury. The skin can't be punctured or lacerated by most known materials, can't be frostbitten, can't be ravaged by disease, and we have the great elasticity and toughness to thank, which, great. And also the skin cells grow and replace themselves really quickly as well. But he's got some weaknesses. Short temper, lack of foresight, lack of intelligence, and easily manipulated self-esteem. He originally thought of himself as an extra strong freak, and used his powers as a performer in a carnival. Now, the only reason to make the Blob obese is old school fat phobia. He could have just been large and muscular. That would have worked even better with the pliancy of his skin, because he could suck people into the folds between muscles, turning his, amazing physique beautifully grotesque. But just like skin, he was burdened with an appearance that just didn't make sense and is considered undesirable by most folks. And that's it for me, everybody. I've been Alexa, the resident emo girly, and if you enjoyed my ramblings today, could you help us out by giving this video some love? Much appreciated.